Number one in your program and number one in your hearts.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Ms. Abby Bosco joins Mitch Belisle, Ryan Boyle. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
It was about time we had talked about the ladies.
Yeah.
Mitch, we've been focused on the men's tournament. It's time we need to talk to WLL. The All-Star Game draft. We got NCAA tournament action. We got a lot going on.
Yeah, we've touched it a little bit, but we haven't had like the source of the sport come to
An
us.
expert.
And now
A
we've
celebrity.
got an expert, a player, and a dominant player at that. So we're excited to have you, Abby.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah. Let's go a quick rewind for those who are not familiar with Abby Bosco, which is, if you're a women's lacrosse fan, it's probably no one, but if you're a men's lacrosse fan, maybe learning a little bit more about the women's game. Suffolk, New York native. Talk a little bit about your life growing up and how you ended up at Penn and then eventually Maryland.
Yeah, so Suffolk, New York, which was kind of a hotbed for lacrosse when I was a little kid. So 4 years old, I'm lucky enough my mom signed me up and kind of fell in love with the game from there and never wanted to put my stick down. But I played soccer and basketball all throughout, since I was 5 until I was a senior in high school, until I went to college. And
Multi-sport athlete,
yes.
people. Multi-sport athlete.
Which was your favorite? Was lacrosse always your favorite, or did it fluctuate?
It was funny, and my mom would say the same thing too. It was whatever the current season I was in was my favorite.
Yeah.
So soccer, I was diehard soccer. Basketball, diehard basketball, and then lacrosse, I kicked it into gear. But I do have to say basketball and lacrosse were definitely my two. I think if I was taller, maybe basketball would have been my go-to.
Did you play AAU basketball?
When I was really young, I did a little bit, but not ever super seriously.
Okay.
But I played travel soccer up until I couldn't anymore with lacrosse, which was, I think, going into my freshman year of high school.
Yeah, it just became too much to do.
It just
travel
became,
and everything.
yeah, all my lacrosse games in the spring would be the nights of our soccer practices. So it was I had to miss, I had to either miss a game or a practice at least once or twice a week. So it just got to be it wasn't fair, obviously. So that's what, lacrosse was definitely my favorite, I would have to say.
I think it worked out.
Thank goodness, yeah.
It worked out.
But
those WNBA contracts are getting better every year.
I know. I need 7 extra inches for that. But one day. But yeah, so I played starting when I was 4 years old, and then, when I was getting recruited, it was before that September 1st rule. So I was 8th grade, 9th grade.
Oh, wow.
Full face of braces, going on college visits. Yep. Little 13-year-old.
Yeah, you dabbled, I was looking, you dabbled in all the worlds. You had COVID.
Yes.
You had pre-early recruiting. You got to experience all of the fun of crazy lacrosse.
Yeah, no, literally. Looking back, I'm that just wasn't real life.
Yeah.
Playing lacrosse at Penn during COVID and getting recruited as an 8th grader, and I'm just lucky. My mom stressed from myself and my siblings at a really young age, do really well in school, do your homework, study, so that when if you are choosing a college for lacrosse, you're not limited. You can't look at X, Y, and Z because you don't have the grades to go there. So I'm fortunate enough that she kind of ingrained that into us, that by the time I was looking, I didn't really have to limit my options based on, your scores aren't high enough. And that's kind of where Penn comes into play, I guess. I was always, Penn wasn't really ever on my horizon.
Okay.
And when I was getting recruited, obviously they reached out, come on a visit, and I was hesitant. And my mom was just go visit. So we went on a visit, and
this was in the early 8th, 9th grade.
Yes,
early
I
rounds.
think this was probably super beginning of 9th grade.
Oh my
God. That is insane.
Yeah, I still have the picture of my first time there. It's wild. I'm this tall. I have a full face of braces.
You're just are figuring out what a high school classroom is let alone
Yes.
what is a college campus
Exactly.
That's
And
wild.
so I visited once, and I liked it, but I wasn't sold yet. And then I think I visited at least once or maybe 2 more times before I was I loved the girls. I loved everything about it. The team was so awesome. Just seemed like a really good culture. And I was obviously a great school, great education. So I was boom, let's do it. So freshman year, or the beginning of my sophomore year, I committed to Penn.
And was the staff that recruited you, they stayed the whole time you were at Penn?
Yeah.
Okay. Was there consistency there?
The head coach Karen, assistant coach Carrie, and then our defensive coach left after my sophomore year.
Okay.
Of my sophomore year of college. So I had all 4 of them my whole career at Penn because
but that's the other thing.
junior and senior year were a wash.
With the early recruiting
Yes.
though, with the early recruiting, like there's kids that got recruited in 8th or 9th grade by one staff, changed over when they were in high school, and then like got new coaches when they were there. There could be like 3 staffs in
Less so in the Ivy Leagues, though.
less in the Ivy League
Less
for
so in the
for
Ivy
sure.
Leagues.
But I mean, it's
I
just that's
know.
like part of the danger of that super early commitment is like you might go to a school where a whole staff changed
Well,
over.
thankfully those days are over.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I know, and
Sorry that you had to live it, but thankfully those days
that
are
was
over.
like something that I was definitely really looking at while I was getting recruited. Was like,
Yeah.
are you gonna be here when I'm here?
Yeah.
Because obviously you want to be recruited by the coaches that you're gonna wind up getting coached by. Like you knew they wanted you, now you're here. So that was definitely like a really big part for me.
So it won't make you relive COVID. I don't think anybody, that's like, anytime that pops up in conversation, it's like, no. Let's just, let's move past it. Talk to us about, in terms of the transition from Penn to Maryland, because
Yeah.
very different in terms of like
Yeah.
school, location, size, like every single box of when you're getting recruited that you would check for Penn is like, nope, that's different over here, right? So
Yeah.
like how did you navigate that, and why did that make sense despite the seemingly on paper differences in schools?
Yeah. Well, I think so. Obviously, junior and senior year we didn't play at Ivy League. So everyone else, my senior year at Penn, every other conference was playing.
Right.
But we weren't. So we were still like practicing. We weren't allowed to use our facilities until I think it was February. So we were like driving 25 minutes to a field to all practice as a team, and our coaches weren't allowed to be there. So we were like prepping obviously for the small chance that we could play, but then also like when you go into a program, you always want to leave it better than when you got there. And even if I wasn't going to get to put on a Penn jersey again, like I knew that, these freshmen, we're going to leave this team. We're going to set them up for success come their next season. So I think, and it worked
Admirable.
out.
Yeah.
It was like looking back at it, it was tough.
That is admirable.
Yeah, and then we finally did get to use our field, like very limited compared to my first 2 years, but we got to like practice as a team with our coaches.
Would you practice on Franklin Field or on the fields down kind of across the
Penn
tracks?
Park.
Penn
Yeah,
Park,
we would do a mixture of both. So we would do Monday, Wednesday, Friday at Franklin Field, Tuesday, Thursday at Penn Park.
Got it.
And then so we wound up playing like one game my senior year. There was like a ton of rules and we were able to get one game, but obviously like we got that eligibility back.
Right.
And then that's when I think had I played my senior year, I would have been fine with just entering the real world. But I was like, you know what, you play your whole life I played my whole life. I dedicated so many weekends. My parents too, like driving me everywhere to camps, to tournaments, to play 4 years of college lacrosse and to only get 2. I was like, I'm not ready to give this up. Like
Totally.
I love the sport so much, I'm not burnt out. And that's when, you enter the transfer. I guess it's the transfer portal, even if you're a grad student.
Okay.
It's all the same thing.
I feel like I didn't even know what I was doing until my junior year of college.
Exactly.
A little different. Ryan started as a freshman, but I switched positions. I had no idea what lacrosse was until junior year. So it's like, if I hadn't had junior and senior year, that's tough.
Exactly. So I'm like, I'm not ready. Let's just see. And when I entered the portal, I was like, I'm only going to go somewhere if it's like a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then like when you talk to Maryland, you're like, that's as great of an opportunity as it comes. I think like if I told myself as an 8th grader getting recruited that I would one day end up at Maryland, I wouldn't believe it.
Right.
So the fact that was like an opportunity for me, I was like, I had a Zoom call with the coaches when I entered and obviously, so they were gearing up for their season. They were playing a Big Ten only schedule, but like they were about to get into their season. So we had a Zoom call like right before their season started, and I just like fell in love with the coaching staff, as I think like the whole world kind of has.
Yeah.
But like if I like Kathy and defensive coach Kennis and Caitlin Phipps was there at the time too, and I was just like, I love them, and I would be insane to not jump on this opportunity, and it was the best decision I've ever made because I met like my best friends ever, and then just had like the time of my life playing at Maryland for such a historic and storied program. And then obviously my first year there, we went to the Final Four, which is just like there's no way to describe that when you step on the field for a Final Four. And we played at Hopkins, so it was a packed house.
Packed. It was sold out.
It was sold out. It was like a 5-hour rain delay. We were sitting in the locker room for like 5 hours, but I mean, you just like, and the girls on the team who had been there before were like, when you step on the field, like, it's going to be insane. Like, you need to, like, try to find your family in the crowd. And that's going to, like, zone in on your family. That's the only, like, that's going to be kind of, like, your home, your safe place. Because there's, like, nothing that compares to the feeling of, like, stepping on the field to warm up for the Final Four and then playing. So you need kind of that, like, outlet. Like,
that's amazing. Did you ever know where your family was in the Final Four?
I mean, it was impossible to find them. I was like,
I spent like the entire warm up looking for them.
Yes, I'm like, Mom,
no one gave me that advice either.
Me neither. Same.
It was such good advice. I'm like, Mom, you need to like be in the stands right when we get out for warm up so I can see you and know where you are. But I mean, it took me a while. Like, I think it was probably like not till the third quarter until I finally realized where they were.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, like it was so packed. But so I mean that, like you guys both know, there's like it's just way different than any other game that you'll ever play in.
Were there other Penn seniors that transferred in the transfer portal, or were you the only one?
A year before me, there was one girl.
Okay.
And then my year, I was the only one.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you had anyone to kind of lean on to the process. But you were...
I was the only one of my friends that did. And then since then, there's been a bunch.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there's 5 that are currently, it's in their 6th year at other schools.
Got it.
Yeah, so they actually, like a lot of girls, what they did was they like took a semester off at Penn so that they could play all 4 years there. But then did like so they could do their 5th year there.
Right.
That's what CJ Curse did.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so then they went.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why all those guys ended up doing that.
Yeah. Let's move along. This is sore subject.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so that's how I ended up at Maryland, and best decision. I mean, it's like.
Well, also just the juxtaposition of like COVID not playing, and you're seeing everybody else play. Yeah. Right. And then like the next year, you're in the Final Four. Yeah. It's like what
in front of a sold out crowd. It's an old sitting like closer than we are right now, which is like.
It's just like that's like I have to imagine like a pinch me like just 1 year like year over year like where was I a year ago? It's like holy hell like.
Yeah. No, I mean like I think I don't ever take the time to like actually sit down and talk about it and reflect and be like art like that was crazy.
Yeah.
Like what we were doing and just to like even stay motivated in a time where like you were sitting home and like you knew you weren't playing and you were watching on your TV screen all these other schools playing and like you can go into that like that's not fair poor me situation, but at the end of the day it was like I had this silver lining, this opportunity that like I never thought that committing to a school I would have an opportunity to have 2 completely different amazing experiences and like I think that
without rubbing anyone the wrong way too, right?
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
you didn't have to burn any bridges to make that happen either, which is that's kind of the cool thing.
Yeah, like I graduated with my undergrad, and like I saw that through, and then I went somewhere else.
Well, and how about Penn's season this year? Because that must have been those freshmen that you talked about, like wanting to make that impact, right? They were probably freshmen that 2021 season.
They're actually, they're the ones who are in their years at other schools right now.
Okay, all right.
So this...
We still laid the foundation.
Yes.
They don't do math at Cornell. It's
I can only count to 4. 4 is the maximum.
I know, it's like a lot of years ago. But yeah, so there's 2 at Northwestern, 2 at Boston College right now.
So the tournament, you got Penn against
Yes.
Maryland. I mean,
Yes.
What do you do? Do you just not go?
Half
Just
jersey.
dodge? Do you go half
Yes.
jersey?
So it was, I went to, when I found out that obviously Maryland was the host and they were playing, Penn was playing there, I'm like, back to back, a Maryland game, a Penn game, like I gotta go to that.
Yeah.
So I went to, that was on Friday, I went to Fridays, so I got to see both of them play, and then Sunday was Mother's Day, so I came home, and I spent Mother's Day at my house and watched on TV with my mom, but like I just like don't think I can go.
Yeah.
It's too hard.
Well, it's kind of a win-win. Like regardless of who wins, you're like,
Right.
okay, I've got my squad. But then
Yeah.
I'm sure there was you're cheering for both teams.
Yeah, it's like
just a
in-
good game,
Yeah.
but the best game ever.
I know.
You're sad for one and happy for the other.
Yeah, I mean it was such a crazy game too.
Yeah.
Overtime.
Yep.
But what gets crazier in the tournament than overtime? But exactly, it's like a win-win, but also like a lose-lose.
And you're not there, so you don't have to pick a certain section to sit in.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Got the Rob Lowe hat on. Let's go team.
You talk about overtime being crazy. What's your best college lacrosse memory of the moment for you?
Yeah. Ooh. I think about this, but then the immediate answer is my 5th year. We won the Big Ten regular season. We hosted Northwestern on the Maryland Field Hockey Lacrosse Complex, and all of our, if you know how it's set up, it's the field, it's fenced. There's a small sidewalk path where fans can stand on the fence, and you're super close to the field, and then there's stands. So we had all of our alumni lining the fence.
Cool.
It was packed. It was a beautiful day. Stands were packed, and then there's that grass section, standing room only, packed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so loud, and it was one of those games where we had a game plan, and it was just executed. Every defensive set, we were locked in. Every offense possession, everything was just I think we wound up winning by 6 or 7, but I mean against Northwestern, that's a huge not a 1-2 game, you know.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those days where everything felt so electric, and then obviously it was to clinch the Big Ten regular season championship. So as soon as the whistle sound, the horn blew, it was they gave us our trophy, our T-shirts, our hats, and I think that it was just such an incredible game and so exciting.
I want to talk about packed crowds. I want to shift gears to WLL.
Yes.
And we'll talk. There was an all-star game draft last night, but kind of going back to February, those stands were packed. Packed. It was one of the coolest environments.
The crowd, the sold-out crowd, the Charm cheers, this is what we dream of. We were on the field, and sometimes you just gotta soak it all in, but a win feels good.
Heck yeah.
Let's go!
And I thought, my major takeaway from the whole round robin and tournament play was you and your peers, your professional peers, the ambassadorship. It was one of the coolest things in terms of signing autographs, making Charm bracelets, no pun intended.
Charm.
The interaction and engagement of aspiring young girls, and then seeing these women that are these role models, and you and everybody taking that ownership of that role model on. It was very touching and just impressive. What was that experience like? Because I know you played AU, and I know you obviously played collegiately and professionally at AU, but that to me felt, and from my limited conversations, because I was focused on the PLS, that felt like something. It felt different, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it just felt like something.
No, I completely agree. It was incredible. I think you get a taste of it when you're in college with the little girl signing autographs, but the environment that was at the WLL, and I think a huge credit to the WLL and the people at the WLL and PLL who created that setup and that environment and that atmosphere. It's you do in moments in a moment like that, you take a step back and you kind of realize how big it is. What we were doing in that moment was way bigger than us playing in a professional lacrosse game. I think that was just seeing those little girls. I'm this is the start. When you're 10 years from now, when you're in our shoes, this is gonna be we're setting this up for this to be your full-time life one day. And I think that's what, and the fact that we're doing something we love and they look up to us for that was so special. And I think I can speak for so many of my teammates too. We had lost our first game. We're obviously super upset, but there was the Charm bracelet meet and greet afterwards. And I think a ton of us were just this is incredible. We just lost, we're bummed, but all these little girls
Yeah.
are out there, and like it makes you smile, and it is it's just like for something bigger.
Yeah.
And it was your goalie that gave the press conference, the really emotional
Incredible.
press conference, right?
You know, I held my head walking out, but I saw these girls, heard these girls calling my name, asking for autographs. I don't know why I'm getting worked up, but, you know, so I wanted to stay out there and do the autographs because that felt better than being in the locker room and thinking about possibly not having another game. You know, the game just means a lot on and off the field. And I think this experience has really allowed myself and everyone to connect with what's out there. It's brought the crowd to us. It's really put it in our hands, the impact and influence that we have. So I really just thank everyone for being here, everyone who put this on. You know, win or lose, I'd rather have the opportunity to lose than not play at all.
Yeah, that was cool to see.
Yeah, that was Kaylee Waters. She's just the ultimate teammate and player and competitor, and you know, I've had the honor of playing with her in multiple different settings, but such a fun time playing with her for the Charm. But like she summed it up perfectly, I think, in that press conference. Like, we just lost. We're obviously, you know, we work so hard to be on, like, behind the scenes is what a lot of people don't see. Like, we all work super hard to get there and to help set ourselves up for success. And like, we came up short that day, and we kind of knew that coming up short meant that we probably weren't gonna move on to the next round, and obviously like gutted that we wouldn't have another game. But then like, you take a step back, like she said, and you realize the bigger picture and what we just were a part of is incredible.
One of the things I thought the league did a really smart job of, and they really replicated what they did to start the PLL, was where they built in kind of the intercollegiate, right? Like unity and chemistry immediately. And there's that awesome clip of you online, you know, when you realize you're on the Charm, right? And then it's all the former Terps, like they're back together again, like reunion, you know.
Goalies in the group chat officially.
Hey, Abby. Hey, Scott.
Let's go.
I'm so pumped. This is like, I could cry. This squad. But I played at Penn and Maryland, and yeah, I wore this zip up with a Maryland shirt under, like with hopes, and it worked out.
Well, obviously you had that visceral reaction, but in terms of like the intent of like getting college programs together to play professionally, what was that like? Like, was it just instant chemistry, just in terms of like, okay, we're all together.
This is the Maryland system.
And like, you know, like, these are my girls.
Same language, same.
Exactly. I mean, it helps tremendously.
Yeah.
Especially from like a defensive standpoint, playing with Lizzie Colson and Meg Dowdy, former Terps, who none of us, like, we didn't get to all play together ever.
Yeah.
At Maryland, obviously. Like, I didn't get to play with either of them when I was there. But it's like, it's the same system, it's the same communication, and like, there is no like, okay, what do you say when this happens? Like, we say the same stuff. Our instincts are kind of similar. So it just helps. And I also think it's just like, we kind of took the Maryland fan base with us.
Right.
It's like all those Terp fans are now Charm fans. And I think that like, you play for something bigger when you have that fan base. And I mean, it's just so exciting. I'm talking about my 2 years at Maryland, like being the best 2 years ever. It's like, now I feel like I'm slightly back in it. You know, you can dream to go back to college, and like this gave me
college honeymoon.
like sparked a little bit of that dream to go back to college and play with my Terps again. And
anyone on the Charm team that maybe you had only played against and like had like rivalry with, and then you got to know them off that. I remember in the MLL, that was one of my favorite parts, where you go against these people that you're like, oh, I hated this guy when you play against him, and then you get on the team, you're like, oh, they're a great guy.
Which is so funny, because I feel that way about so many players that I've played with. I'm like, you were like our biggest rival in college, and like, I like you, like you're my friend now. But honestly, the Charm, it was a lot of we obviously had Kaylee, who's a goalie at UNC, but besides that, we had a few girls from Loyola, and then one player from UVA, and we actually never played Loyola in season.
Oh wow!
So like, our coaches are best friends.
Yeah.
So like Jen Adams and Kathy and David Dobie. So we never played them in season, unless obviously it was tournament time and they lined up. But we would always scrimmage them, usually in the fall.
So there wasn't the deep-seated hatred.
Exactly. Like, honestly, like Loyola.
You went in with an open mind.
That's just Mitch.
Like, I feel like Loyola and Maryland girls, like, already get along to begin with because like we basically come like their coaching staff's a bunch of Terps.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
they're all Terps and we're all it's like we're all Terps.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we like already love them to begin
Hopkins,
with.
on the other hand. That's
Yeah.
good. That was good. Should we shift gears to this year's tournament?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Well,
Exciting.
yeah, you're an analyst now.
Yes.
So we want your analysis.
Yeah,
What do you think?
of course.
For some new faces in the mix.
Yes.
Some OG faces.
A little bit of everything. No, I think this Final Four will be very exciting for multiple reasons. But I think like we see this some years and we don't see it other years. I think like it's same for the men's side. Like sometimes there's a clear top 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And the rest of the field is, there's a little bit of a discrepancy, and I think we saw
So
that.
diplomatic. It's
Yeah.
so diplomatic.
We saw that in the Elite 8 for the women's this year. Like, minus the Florida Duke game, there wasn't any, like, upset watch. I mean, the Penn Northwestern game got close in the middle, but then Northwestern ran away with it toward the end. Florida went up 11-2, and then Duke brought it back to, it was 11-9 final, but, like, the whole game, that wasn't super close. So I think the Elite 8 wasn't, like, super riveting,
The
super
Final
exciting.
Four is who you thought they were.
Yes, and like I think this is gonna call for much closer games, and I just think on any given day it could be anyone's game. Like I do think that we'll probably see a UNC BC rematch of a
Okay.
couple of years ago.
Okay. We're just jumping right to the conclusion.
Yeah.
We're going game by game.
No.
Okay. So we're just calling. We're
No,
calling
no. I guess
You
like
got to see Florida play, right? You saw them
I was
live.
just gonna say I got to see Florida play, and I think Florida was a team this year who they graduated so much firepower, especially on their offensive end. And everyone I think they weren't really talked about a lot in the beginning of the season, and they have like exceeded all expectations. I think they do not play or look like they're an underclass heavy team. I think they play like they're veterans, and they play with so much heart. And like I love, Caitlin Davies in the midfield, one of my favorite players to watch. She's just like going 110%. Like I've seen her dive for back checks and she executes it perfect. Like I'm like, that is a girl you want on your team.
Yeah.
Like she's diving for back checks. She's laying her body on the line to get the ball. And I think that that's a team that on any given day can upset anyone.
Well, despite that, why do you think Carolina's going to win?
Well, so here's where, another team that's kind of like, a lot of their stars are youth. You have Chloe Humphrey, who's a redshirt freshman, Eliza Osborne, who is a true freshman, and obviously Ashley Humphrey, the veteran behind the cage. But I think a lot, like their Dodgers a lot of them are freshmen, and they have a ton of support staff who have been veterans, but a lot of them, like they're juniors, but a lot of them were hurt last year. So this is like, for lack of a better word, like a newer, in terms of chemistry-wise, team that you wouldn't think that when you look at them. They have so much firepower.
Well, they have so many trips to the Final Four under their belt,
Yes.
right? They're like it's an experienced group, even if they're young. They've
That's
learned
what
from
the
women
culture.
of-
The culture.
exactly.
Youth is like a double-edged sword to me because like sometimes like there isn't like the desperation.
There's no one to tell you to look for your family in the crowd.
Yes, it's true.
Well, I think there's not the desperation of like a strong senior class, but there's also
Like,
like
we have to do this. It's
Right.
Like, oh, we're here.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Why not?
But that's the other part is you're just like, whatever. Like you play looser to
Which
a
is
degree
better
you're like, I don't know. Like I don't know. Like is there pressure? Like I'm just gonna go out there and.
It's the first time I've been here. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah. And like I think that could have been a conversation in the ACC tournament. Like once they got to the championship, like how are these freshmen, these young players going to react? And like they stepped up to the challenge. Like they did not look scared. They did not look timid. Like if anything, they went even harder.
Yeah.
So like I think that speaks for itself in what they are capable of. I just think they're a really talented group that like definitely has a great chance at winning it all.
Should we shift gears to the other game because you've already called BC the winner? So
BC almost got upset by Stony Brook in the second round, and I think that
sometimes that early scare helps
yes.
you.
Yeah, and I think that was an eye opener for like them and a lot of people, and like you said, sometimes it's an eye opener, and sometimes it's just the nature of the matchup. Like
that's true.
There could be a team that's maybe not as talented, but for some reason their style of play matches up with yours so well, and like I've had teams like that in college where it's like, all right, maybe they're not even in the top 10, but for some reason, like their offense is like, and our defense don't Like, it's like they have a way of beating it. And I think like that could have been the case. Stony Brook, notorious for their really good zone, and it kind of stifled BC. We saw like they had trouble scoring against it. And then like Shea Dolce in net was just so solid, which obviously helped them still pull out that one. But like that was a scare in the second round. It just goes to show you anything can happen, and Northwestern's extremely talented. So, again, if you told me that Northwestern won, I wouldn't be surprised. If you told me Florida won, I wouldn't be surprised. I think like these 4 teams are the top 4 teams right now, and
geographical diversity is incredible, by the way. It's like, other than the West Coast, it's like perfect points on a map where you can make a square right around it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and quick side note, I love that the NCAA has everything going on in
men's
one.
and women's
So
together.
cool.
Yeah,
It's like, please, just for the love of God, can we do that? And maybe you can do a little sales pitch here, get D2 and D3 women there as well. But the fact that all the lacrosse world, most of the lacrosse world is descending upon one location is tremendous in terms of like, you think of families, right? With a son or daughter, like you can just go to one spot, right?
Exactly.
You think of like alumni groups that maybe like everybody's just, and granted there's not a lacrosse this year, but like everybody's going to one spot, like just having almost like a convention to a degree, like just having everybody go to one location, I think is super cool that for fans of both the men's and women's game to be able to not be torn into separate locations. And then obviously like the sport, it could use a little boost from an attendance standpoint too. So like the fact that everybody is kind of helping support, both sides of the equation, I think is just a total no-brainer. And like, please, for the love of God, NCAA, can we keep doing this moving forward?
Yeah, it's so cool.
How about diving into facets of the game? Florida versus UNC. What do you think is going to be the deciding factor?
Well, you're looking at 2 similar styles of play. So, like, you look at zones versus man-to-man, and they both their defenses play, like, really strong 1v1 man-to-man defense. So, that's, like, you're going against that every day in practice. I think, like, the biggest thing for Florida is, like, UNC, they can go on runs. And, like, they have Ashley Humphrey and Chloe Humphrey, who Ashley has a great vision, but Chloe's just, like, the ball in the back of the net kind of player. And, like, if you got to slow those 2 down. And a lot of people, I've seen a lot of teams, like, BC actually went into this, they double face guarded. So they took both Humphrey sisters out, and they were like, everyone else go 5v5, which, if that happens, that opens up so much space that, like, UNC, like, they're going to need to spread, and they've had to practice with this because it happened in the ACC tournament, but, like, they're going to have to spread and, like, just beat their matchups, which they're a really fast team. And, Florida is excellent 1v1 defenders, but, like, they're super fast, and with that much space, it's really hard.
You mentioned Dolce and net for BC. Is that the X factor for that game, or what's the deciding factor between Northwestern and BC?
I think like she's always definitely the X factor, especially in a team like Northwestern, who they have Sam Smith at the draw, and she just gets so many extra possessions for Northwestern that they generate so many shots. And you have Maddie Taylor, who's an excellent shooter. Like, getting some big saves on her early on can be the difference maker in the game. Like, they have great shooters. They'll shoot from pretty much anywhere. Shea Dolce being on is going to be huge for BC.
What does BC need to do offensively?
Yeah, I think, like, they have McKenna Davis and Emma Pinto behind, with both great vision, great feeders, and then Rachel Clark, who has one of the best first steps right now, one of the best dodgers from up high, and I think it's getting her going early. Like, you can't wait. I think, in those games where we saw it was close against Stony Brook, like, they took a little while to get going. And I think it's just clicking early on for them and, like, playing to their strengths and I'd be interested to see if they lock Rachel Clark off. Yeah. Because a lot of teams have elected to do that this year as well. But, like, Northwestern has a ton of different defenses. Like, they can go into a high-pressure zone. They can go into a man. So I think sometimes against really good dodgers like that, you play a zone. And it's really tough, like, to dodge through a zone. It's more feeds. So it's kind of playing, like, do you want to let Emma Pinto and McKenna Davis look for cutters, or do you want to
zone? That's the natural reaction, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
offensively, that is the counter.
Yeah.
Did you like face guarding? Did you enjoy that task when you were asked to do that?
Well, actually at Maryland we never face guarded.
Never needed to.
Yeah. Wouldn't know.
No. We just, like, played Right, like we would always just play like 7v7.
Cute gimmick defense. We're good.
Which I was very grateful for because face guarding is not an easy task.
No, that's why I asked.
And not one that you want to do. Like I've done it a bit in the pro league, and like it's so hard.
You're damned if you do and damned if you don't, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're either taking yourself out of the play or they get the ball and everyone's like, come on, you're supposed to.
Yeah, I'm like lose-lose. It's really lose-lose.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes if a player's that good and if a player's hot that day, like, and you can't stop them, you gotta face guard them.
Yeah. You want to have that in your back pocket if you need
Exactly.
to.
Like you don't want to do that, but like plan Z, I would say.
Plan Z.
Plan Z, put him in a face guard, take him out of the game.
Okay.
All right, so you got an opportunity with the WLL to go to Japan.
Yes.
Was that your first international lacrosse trip?
Yes, definitely. Coolest place I've been to for lacrosse and furthest.
And
All I want to know is the food, obviously.
You're going to be really upset with my answer.
Oh,
no.
So,
McDonald's?
no.
Do you want to gloss over this? Should we move on?
No, I've tried so hard to like fish, but I don't like it.
Did you go to the fish market?
Yes.
You did.
I did.
It's
And that was
nuts.
awesome.
It's
It was
nuts.
so cool.
It was awesome seeing all that stuff on the
No, it was so
Just
cool.
a dead aquarium.
And like I tried a ton of things, and like you could tell everything is so fresh, and like everyone who
Well,
loves
you can
fish.
eat ramen.
The ramen was incredible.
Yeah, let's talk ramen.
I loved it. It was the best ramen I've ever had.
Nice.
And then I'm like, now that I ate it so much there, I like want it at home,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, this just isn't even close.
What was your favorite part of the trip? Since
The ramen.
Since food
No.
wasn't in the mix.
No, and like all the food experiences were so cool too.
Yeah.
Like there's other stuff, obviously.
Sure.
But like it was just so cool. And I think the coolest part was like seeing how much lacrosse has grown in
Yeah.
Japan. Like we're all the way across the country, and these girls are like invested in lacrosse, and they look up to us and they want to learn from us, and we're playing against them, but then they're also so excited to talk to us after and learn more, and they're such students of the game. But
Yeah.
I think just like the growth of lacrosse, not only we see in the US, but like getting to see that globally, and we call it like, it's like the trip is called the global game, and
Yeah.
it's truly what it is. And I think that like you hear about it, but until you physically go and you see how big lacrosse is even to them.
The crowd.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I remember playing in, this was so much longer ago, but like, I was like, oh my God, like the crowds are like legit for these
Yeah.
games, right? I mean, they're like, and they have chants and whatnot, like they have like, there's some organization, right? I mean, in terms
Oh my
of,
God, it's incredible. The
Yeah.
fans.
And how was the language barrier? Do you feel like you brushed up on your Japanese over there?
I tried to learn some, but they do such a great job of like, they're able to communicate with us. Like there's always, they have, they speak good English, and
Yeah.
even the ones who don't.
Most other countries are
Yeah.
really great about it.
I know it
speaking
makes you
multiple.
feel, but like even if not all of them speak, like a lot of them don't speak English, but there's always like one or two girls who speak enough English that can help communicate between us and them, and so like there's always one or two girls there who are able to, and that it's always great to get to communicate with them.
well, it won't compare, but I'll give you some good ramen spots in the city.
Thank you.